Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your most compelling sources, the ones you send us, and we really extract the core knowledge, those surprising facts, and, the crucial insights you need to be genuinely well-informed.
Exactly. We do the heavy lifting for you.
So today, we're jumping into something really exciting. We're embarking on a journey into the incredibly rich, incredibly dynamic world of fantasy literature in 2025.
Yeah, it's been quite a year already.
It really has. 2025 has delivered some truly unforgettable reads. I mean, books pushing boundaries, captivating readers in ways you maybe didn't expect. We've meticulously gone through a curated list based on the sources, looking at the year's standout fantasy books, the ones that have really hit home with readers, made a significant impact. And, well, we're ready to unpack what makes them so special.
That's right. And our mission here for this deep dive, it's really to give you, our listener, a kind of definitive shortcut. A way to understand the genre's current landscape that goes way beyond just, a simple list of titles.
More than just a book list.
Absolutely. We've synthesized the key insights, pulled out those surprising facts, and really identified the overarching trends from this specific compilation of sources you provided.
So we're not just telling you what the books are about.
No, not at all. We're going deep, exploring why they stand out, what really makes them tick, and crucially, what they reveal about the ongoing evolution of fantasy as a genre. It's about getting to the pulse, right? The pulse of fantasy right now, and understanding the nuances that make these stories just so powerful.
Okay, let's dive inside this then. So our sources, they paint 2025 as an absolutely wild and wonderful year for fantasy.
Wild is a good word for it.
Yeah. A period of unexpected twists, turns.
Yeah.
It showcases a genre that's just constantly reinventing itself.
Yeah.
It's genuinely exciting to see the daring directions authors are taking us in.
And looking closely at those sources, a really compelling picture emerges. It's like multiple foundational trends have sort of converged to create such a vibrant year.
Okay, like what?
Well, one of the most dominant forces, no surprise really, continues to be what we often called Romantasy. Still going strong.
Oh, absolutely reigning supreme. Our sources highlight the enduring appeal of its core archetypes. Think powerful dragon riders, complex, morally gray love interests.
The classics at this point.
Exactly. They've really cemented their place as a staple. It proves readers crave those powerful emotional connections right alongside their epic adventures. The allure is that blend, isn't it? High stakes, intricate magical worlds, and that intense romantic tension.
Yeah, you can see why it works.
And a prime example from our list, which we'll get to, is Rebecca Yarros' Onyx Storm. It perfectly embodies this deepening the emotional, the romantic stakes, all within this huge epic fantasy backdrop.
Right. But it's not just about the romantasy, is it? Which I agree has been massive. But this year feels like authors are pushing even further.
You've hit on it, exactly.
Yeah.
Beyond let's say, the comfort of those familiar tropes, we've definitely observed the clear emergence of deeper, braver narrative.
Braver? How so? Authors are genuinely unafraid. They're tackling complex themes, crafting these bold new worlds that don't shy away from confronting really challenging societal or personal issues head on.
Okay.
So we're seeing stories engage with themes like entrenched class disparity, systemic injustice, the profound weight of complex grief, the difficult consequences of our choices, all wrapped up in these rich, fantastical settings.
So using fantasy to talk about real stuff.
Precisely. Take Lightfall by Ed Crocker, for instance. We'll discuss it more later. It uses this vampiric social hierarchy to offer this incisive critique of real-world class systems. It elevates the genre beyond, simple escapism. These narratives, they challenge you to think, not just to be entertained.
It feels like a significant evolution.
Definitely.
And speaking of elevation, what about the magic? You mentioned the sources hinted at innovation there.
Indeed, yeah. And that leads directly into another major trend, significant innovation in magic systems. This year, we've seen the creation of these really layered magic systems. They feel both ancient, steeped in lore, and incredibly innovative in how they're used.
Not just waving a wand.
Not at all. These aren't just convenient plot devices. They are intricately woven into the very fabric of the worlds, contributing hugely to both the nuanced world building and the complex plot lines.
Right.
They often have real, tangible consequences, their own internal logic. They feel like genuine, almost scientific forces within the narrative. It makes the worlds feel more alive, more believable.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about Tracy Dion's Oathbound. The magic beautifully blends different mythological traditions in ways that feel really fresh, unexpected, or the unique martial arts-inspired magic in Breath of the Dragon. Very different, but both innovative.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. The genre mashups.
Yeah.
I always appreciate when authors kind of play with expectations, and the sources definitely point to some surprising combinations. Things that maybe on paper shouldn't work.
Precisely. We've seen successful genre mashups that, as one source really aptly put it, shouldn't have worked, but absolutely did.
Love that.
Yeah. And the daring nature of these fusions has created genuinely fresh, unexpected experiences for readers. Imagine a high-stakes heist story mixed with profound emotional character work, like we see in May Corland's Four Ruined Realms.
Okay, interesting.
Or a vampire narrative that's less about romance and much more about sharp political intrigue and class commentary, like in Lightfall.
Right, the one you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. These unexpected blends, they keep the genre from feeling stale. They constantly surprise readers with new, inventive ways to tell fantastical tales. They really push the boundaries of what fantasy can even be.
And it seems like these stories are really connecting with people on a deeply emotional level this year. The feedback suggests a powerful connection.
Oh, without a doubt. The focus on emotional depth and character-driven heartbreak is just undeniable.
Heartbreak, huh?
Yeah, our sources noted that these stories left readers emotional wrecks. And not just from clever plot twists, but from the profound, relatable pain and growth of the characters themselves.
I like that.
There's a clear shift towards more vulnerable, more deeply relatable protagonists. Their internal struggles, their emotional journeys are just as compelling, maybe even more compelling, than the external conflicts.
So you really feel for them.
Exactly. When you read a book like RF Kuang's Catabasis, another one we'll get to, you're not just invested in their success. Their profound heartache becomes your own. It creates this truly immersive, sometimes painful experience.
Wow. Okay, so with all this complexity, this emotional depth, what does this mean for us, the readers? Are authors kind of expecting more from us now?
That brings up a crucial point, and the answer is, I think, yes. Authors are increasingly trusting the reader.
How so?
They're taking calculated risks. They're presenting books that trust you, the reader, to handle moral complexity without needing simplistic answers.
No easy black and white.
Exactly. Moving away from traditional good versus evil narratives to explore the gray areas, the difficult ethical choices, the nuanced motivations that make characters truly human, even when they're surrounded by, magic and dragons. It respects the reader's intelligence, I think, and our desire for deeper, more challenging engagement. Cassandra Clare's Swordcatcher #2, for example, really dives deep into intricate court politics, where clear heroes are, well, pretty scarce.
Okay. And finally, it sounds like 2025 fantasy is really excelling at making the extraordinary feel profoundly human. Is that fair?
That's the perfect way to put it. It's the culmination of all these trends and maybe the most unifying one. This year's best fantasy excelled at blending the fantastical with the deeply human.
Grounding it.
Yes, grounding these epic tales in relatable emotions, universal experiences, whether it's the challenges of a new relationship or the weight of regret, the unbreakable bonds of family, or just that hard path of self-discovery. These grand narratives feel profoundly relatable because their core is rooted in shared human experiences.
Makes sense?
That's why they stick with you, Long after you turn the last page, they make the extraordinary feel intimately personal. Amal Motar's The River Has Roots is a perfect example of how everyday human experience can be steeped in this subtle, beautiful magic.
But that's a really powerful summary of the whole landscape.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's jump into the list itself. This deeply personal, reader-obsessed countdown our source provided. We're going to explore each of these top 10 books, distill its essence, its impact, basically give you a definitive guide to the year's must-reads.
Get ready to update those wish lists.
Definitely. Get ready to add some incredible titles to your TBR list. #10. Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales by Heather Fawcett. Okay, kicking off our top 10, at number 10, we have Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales by Heather Fawcett. This is the final book in the Emily Wilde trilogy, which, wow, a lot of people love this series.
Hugely popular.
And our source specifically highlighted the emotional difficulty of saying goodbye to these characters, Emily and Wendell. After such a journey, There's a real weight to finishing a series you're invested in, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. And what's particularly striking, I think, reading through the analysis, is how Heather Fawcett managed to achieve a truly satisfying close for the series.
Which is hard.
Incredibly hard. Ending a beloved trilogy on a high note is such a challenge for any author. You've got years of reader expectations, multiple narrative threads to tie up, and you need to provide a genuine sense of conclusion that feels, earned.
Right.
This book apparently manages that beautifully, bringing resolution to long-standing character arcs, plot points, without feeling rushed or forced.
So what's the story here? What are Emily and Wendell up to?
Well, the core of this story, as the source points out, is watching Emily and Wendell navigate married life, which is a significant new dynamic for them, obviously.
Key change from academic rivals.
Huge change. And they're doing this while simultaneously facing this dangerous curse from Wendell's formidable stepmother. So this external threat really pushes their bond to its limits.
Oh, yeah.
And it allows their relationship to evolve so beautifully, as the source says, from those prickly academic rivals they started as.
I remember that.
To this magical and deeply grounded partnership. One that truly strengthens under immense pressure. It's a real testament to the author's nuanced character development over the whole trilogy.
And it still has all those classic Emily Wilde elements, right? The academic fantasy stuff, the folklore.
Oh, absolutely. The source makes that clear. The academic fantasy elements are still gorgeously rendered. We're talking, ancient libraries brimming with forgotten texts.
Love that.
Meticulously researched, charmingly eccentric approaches to mysterious folklore, and that quiet, almost scholarly pursuit of knowledge in a world brimming with hidden fae. These elements are designed to immerse you in a world that feels both fantastical and incredibly well-studied.
Cozy, but with substance.
Exactly. Yet there's an underlying tension, a subtle thread of danger or emotional stakes that elevates the cozy feel. It prevents it from ever becoming too saccharine, it's purely comfortable. It's comfortable, but it's got teeth.
Right.
Our source uses this unique spicy sweet rating to capture the tone, which, just to clarify for you listening, this is often like a fan-derived scale, right? Gauging the balance between comfort, charm, coziness, the sweet, versus intense romance, dark themes, high stakes, the spicy.
Okay, so what's the rating for this one?
For Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, it's described as like the perfect cup of tea on a winter morning, warm, comforting, with just enough complexity to keep you thinking.
Oh, that's perfect.
Isn't it? That analogy just nails it. It conveys that perfect balance of soothing familiarity with subtle intellectual and emotional engagement.
So who's this book for?
Well, the source suggests it's exceptionally well-suited for those who adore cozy fantasy, obviously. For those who appreciate a truly satisfying series conclusion, which is a rare treat. And especially for readers who love to see a love story prove its resilience, its strength, under genuine magical pressure. #tag9. Water Moon by Samantha Soto-Yambo.
Okay, moving on to number 9. This one sounds intriguing. Water Moon by Samantha Soto-Yambo. Our source highlighted this book as being absolutely unlike anything else they encountered this year, which, in fantasy, that's saying something.
It really is. And looking closely at the source material on this one, a point that really stands out is the sheer audacity, the brilliance of the premise.
Okay, what is it?
Get this. A Tokyo pawn shop, right? Discreetly disguised as a ramen restaurant.
Okay.
And it's only visible to those with deep regrets. And in this shop, you can literally pawn your worst decisions.
Pawn your decisions. Wow.
I know. It's undeniably, as the source puts it, bonkers and absolutely perfect in its imaginative scope. This setup just immediately hooks you. It promises a narrative that pushes the boundaries of what a magical setting can explore.
So who runs this place?
The story follows Hana. She's the current, somewhat reluctant owner, and she's on this quest to track down a particularly elusive missing acquisition, one of these pawn decisions, and its former owner.
Okay.
But as the narrative unfolds, it spirals into something far more profound, more emotionally resonant than just a simple recovery mission.
Right. Sounds like it's much more than just a quirky idea. There must be real thematic depth there.
Exactly. This ties directly into the broader themes the book explores. The story quickly evolves into this beautiful meditation on regret, forgiveness, and the elusive nature of second chances. The pawn shop mechanism isn't just a magical gimmick, it's a brilliant narrative device. It allows the characters, and by extension you, the reader, to genuinely examine your own life choices, the lingering weight of past mistakes, and the potential paths toward healing.
How does pawning a decision work? Exactly. Do you just forget it?
That's the fascinating part. When a character pawns a specific regret, they don't just forget it. They experience a world without that decision's impact.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it forces them to confront whether that absence, that alternate reality, truly brings peace or just different problems. It's a clever way to explore what ifs.
That's really smart.
And the magical realism is handled with such delicate care, the source says, that everything feels both impossible and completely believable.
So it feels grounded, even with that premise.
Yes. The fantastical elements are seamlessly integrated into the everyday fabric of Tokyo life. It makes the profound feel entirely natural. The shop appears only when someone is consumed by regret, right? And its wares aren't objects, but the emotional burdens of the past.
Wow.
This subtle, pervasive magic combined with that wild premise and those deeply human themes. That's precisely why it stands out so significantly and clearly resonated so deeply with our source. Hashtag tag 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 8, Lightfall by Ed Crocker.
Okay, our number 8 spot goes to Lightfall by Ed Crocker.
Right.
And this is the one our source said completely reinvented everything they thought they knew about vampire fiction. So, yeah, if you're expecting maybe the usual brooding or sparkling, probably not this one.
Definitely not. A key aspect highlighted by the source here is Crocker's bold, uncompromising reinvention of traditional vampire lore.
Okay, lay it on me.
The premise sets up this desperate, high-stakes situation. Vampires, right? After being basically decimated by these mysterious, shadowy entities known only as the Greys.
Ooh, creepy.
Yeah. They're forced to flee, seek refuge in the last surviving city, which is aptly named First Light.
First Light.
Okay. But within the confines of this last bastion, there's this rigid, unyielding class system that governs every single aspect of their unlife, their existence.
A vampire class system.
Exactly. As the source notes, there's a stark divide. If you're poor, you drink weak, diluted blood. If you're nobility, you get the good stuff, pure and potent. And crucially, you can never, ever leave the city's protective boundaries. So this instantly establishes a compelling conflict and a society basically teetering on the brink.
Wow, that sounds like a powerful setup. Almost allegorical, maybe?
Yeah.
How does this fantastical society speak to, our own?
Well, it prompts you to consider exactly that. The vampire hierarchy in First Light, it serves as this sharp, incisive, often brutal commentary on class systems and entrenched inequality in human societies.
Okay, I see that.
The narrative uses the supernatural to highlight very real societal issues. The desperate plight of the lower classes, the decadent indifference of the elite, the systemic oppression that keeps the majority in check.
So the blood rationing isn't just about food.
Not at all. It's a tool of social control. It literally weakens the disenfranchised while empowering the privileged.
Wow. Okay, so who's our way into this world?
The protagonist is Sam. She is a seemingly lowly palace maid, but she is utterly done with the suffocating roles that oppress her and her people.
A rebel from the inside.
Exactly. Her burgeoning plot for rebellion is described as absolutely gripping. It transforms this into, as the source puts it, vampire fantasy with teeth and political intrigue, rather than your typical, often romanticized vampire narrative.
And the world itself, First Light.
The world building is apparently incredibly rich, immersive. The city of First Light itself is like a character. It's depicted as both decadent and desperate, beautiful and terrifying, this opulent yet decaying grandeur. It creates this vivid, almost claustrophobic backdrop for the political machinations and the brewing revolution.
Okay, and the spicy sweet rating.
This one gets like dark wine with bitter undertones, sophisticated, complex, and definitely not for everyone.
That fits.
Yeah, it perfectly encapsulates its mature, unromanticized approach to vampires and its deeper, often grim thematic content. It signals a significant departure from more common genre tropes. Hashtag tag 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 7, Four Ruined Realms by Mike Corland.
All right, coming in at number 7, we have Four Ruined Realms by Mike Corland. This is the sequel to Five Broken Blades, which I know made us flag.
It did, yeah, a big hit.
And our source mentions it picks up immediately after a jaw-dropping cliffhanger, which, for any series reader, that always gets the heart racing.
Yeah.
Anticipation is high.
Definitely. And delving into this one, based on the source material, we see how the sequel masterfully elevates the original heist premise. It takes it to the next level.
How so?
So in the first book, the 5 blades were introduced, right? These highly skilled assassins, each with unique talents, tragic pasts, brought together for this one dangerous mission.
Right, the team up.
In Four Ruined Realms, their mission escalates dramatically. They're tasked with something truly impossible. Steal a ring from the God King June's sister.
Whoa, okay. That sounds difficult.
Yeah, it's not just a repeat of the first book's formula. It escalates the stakes, the complexity of the target, the personal risks for every character. The ring itself is hinted to hold immense power or significance, making its theft a genuinely world-shaking event.
But it's not just about the plot,
Yeah.
right? The characters were key in the first book.
Exactly. And that's what truly stands out to our source here, what makes this book so compelling. The stunning character development. Each of the 5 blades gets deeper, more complex, more morally ambiguous.
Okay.
Their individual backstories are explored with greater nuance, their motivations are constantly challenged, and their relationships between them shift and evolve in significant, often unexpected ways. It reflects the intense pressure, the impossible circumstances they face.
So it's not just about the high-octane action and the intricate heist mechanics. It's really about the people behind the blades.
Precisely. And this book in particular, it speaks to that wider movement we were talking about earlier in fantasy, that critical balance between high-stakes action and genuine emotional depth.
Right, the human element.
Corland doesn't just give us skilled assassins. She portrays them as broken people trying to heal while navigating impossible circumstances.
I like that.
Yeah. Their combat prowess is undeniable, sure, but their internal struggles with trauma, trust, their own fractured identities are just as central to the narrative. This emotional vulnerability makes their story incredibly resonant.
And the team dynamic, the found family thing.
The found family dynamics, which develop out of that shared trauma and mutual reliance, are described by the source as absolutely gorgeous.
Nice.
These damaged individuals, initially brought together by a mission, they choose to trust and rely on each other, forming bonds stronger than blood. It speaks to the enduring power of human connection, of chosen family, even in the most dangerous, morally ambiguous, fantastical settings. It's a powerful blend of thrilling action and profound human drama. #6, Breath of the Dragon by Fonda and Shannon.
Okay, at number 6, we have Breath of the Dragon by Fonda and Shannon. Our source highlighted that this collaboration brought something absolutely unique to YA fantasy, and particularly its inspiration from the legendary martial artist Bruce Lee.
Yeah, that's a fascinating angle.
It immediately caught my attention. How does a legacy like that translate into a fantasy novel? It's intriguing.
It really is. And what's particularly striking here, based on the source, is how this book, it's the first in the breath-marked duology, by the way, how it honors Bruce Lee's profound legacy, his philosophical principles, while simultaneously creating an entirely new, compelling narrative within the YA fantasy space. It's not a biography, obviously, but an imaginative homage.
So what's the story?
The story follows 16-year-old June. He, despite his father's wishes for a more traditional life, secretly trains in this forbidden martial art.
The forbidden training trope. Love it.
Right. And ultimately, he defies his family to join the Guardians tournament.
It sounds epic.
It is. This isn't just any competition. It's a high-stakes ancient contest that determines who will protect the magical scroll of Earth, an artifact of immense power that maintains the balance of their world.
Okay, big stakes.
Huge stakes, and the martial arts elements, they aren't merely decorative fight scenes. They are beautifully, intricately integrated with the fantasy world building and the magic system. It makes the action feel organic to the setting, deeply tied to the lore, like each fighting style might correspond to an element or a specific magical lineage, that kind of thing.
Cool. And I imagine June goes through quite the transformation during this tournament. Sounds like more than just physical trials.
Exactly right. His character arc is apparently truly compelling. He evolves from this rebellious teenager, burdened by expectation, to someone who truly understands the true weight of responsibility and leadership.
The hero's journey.
Classic. But done well. The tournament structure provides the book with incredible momentum. You get a series of escalating challenges, opponents, each more formidable than the last.
Keeps the pages turning.
Definitely. But what makes it resonate, according to the source, is that each test June faces pushes not just his physical abilities, but his character, his values, and his understanding of what it means to be a guardian, beyond just the act of fighting.
Deeper meaning.
Yeah. He learns about honor, sacrifice, the true meaning of power. This focus on internal battles as well as external ones truly makes his journey resonate deeply with readers. The action sequences are described as absolutely cinematic, reminiscent of classic martial arts films.
Oh, nice.
Which, combined with the personal growth and those philosophical underpinnings inspired by Bruce Lee, makes for a deeply satisfying and unique read.
And the spicy sweet rating.
This one is Like green tea with honey, energizing, pure, and deeply satisfying.
Ooh, I like that. Captures the vibe.
Yeah, it perfectly captures that balance of invigorating action, pure character-driven narrative, and fulfilling thematic development. Tag 5, Oathbound by Tracy Dion.
All right, number 5 is Oathbound by Tracy Dion. This is the third book in the critically acclaimed Legendborn cycle. And for fans of this series, I mean, this book has been highly anticipated.
Hugely anticipated, yeah.
Our source enthusiastically noted it was everything I hoped it would be and more. Which, wow, that's incredibly high praise, especially for a series closer, or near closer.
It really is. And what's particularly striking here, looking at the analysis, is how Tracy Dion masterfully blends contemporary fantasy with classic Arthurian legend.
That's the core of this series, right?
It is. It's a unique fusion. Taking the familiar tales of Camelot, the Round Table, and injecting them into a modern-day setting, reimagined through the lens of this secret society within a historically Black university. The execution in this series is what truly sets it apart, offering such a fresh perspective on ancient myths.
So where does Oathbound pick up?
The story picks up with the protagonist, Bree, kind of disconnected from the powerful, secretive Legend-born order. She's forced into this uneasy alliance with the enigmatic Shadow King.
Ooh, tension.
Lots of tension. And the stakes are higher than ever, especially with the alarming appearance of dead Merlins popping up.
Dead Merlins. Okay, that's intriguing.
Yeah, hinting at some deep, systemic magical threat. But placed within the wider context of fantasy, what makes the series so impactful, according to the source, is how it tackles difficult, often painful themes with such unflinching honesty.
Like what?
It confronts systemic racism, the crushing weight of legacy, complex power dynamics, showing their real-world impact within a fantastical setting. Bree's journey as she discovers her own immense magical power while navigating institutions, systems explicitly designed to exclude and undermine her. It's absolutely powerful, profoundly resonant.
Wow.
She doesn't just gain magic, she learns to wield it against historical injustices.
That's powerful. And the magic system itself sounds incredibly intricate, too. How does she weave all these different traditions together?
It truly is a brilliant system, the source emphasizes. The magic system continues to be intricately developed, weaving together different mythological traditions, primarily Arthurian lore, yes, but also elements of West African and Hoodoo spiritual practices.
Oh, interesting mix.
Yeah, and it feels both respectful of the source material and incredibly innovative in its application. For example, you have the Legendborn's ancestral magic rooted in the memories and powers of their predecessors, interacting with Bree's unique abilities derived from her own lineage, and the deeply personal connection she discovers to ancient magic.
Complex. Very. It's not just a collection of spells. It's a living, breathing part of the world that evolves with the characters. It expands on the foundations, meticulously laid in Legendborn and blood-marked, building towards an epic and hopefully satisfying conclusion for Bree's story and the fate of the entire magical community.
So it really delivers.
It delivers on the promise of an expansive world with deeply meaningful themes. It's a standout for anyone who wants fantasy that doesn't shy away from important social commentary while still delivering high adventure, intricate lore, and compelling character development. Hashtag 4. The River Has Roots by Amal El-Motar. All right, at number 4, we have The River Has Roots by Amal El-Motar. Now, this is her highly anticipated solo debut novel.
Yeah, big expectations for this one.
Definitely. And our source described it as absolutely gorgeous in every possible way, which, coming from a Hugo Award-winning author known for exquisite prose, like in This Is How You Lose the Time War, that sets a very high bar for literary quality.
It certainly does. And looking closely at the source material, one point that really stands out is how the prose itself is described as absolutely lyrical, almost poetic. That's a hallmark of El-Motar's work.
So the writing itself is a major draw.
A huge draw. This book invites you to follow this enigmatic river, the Liss, to the small, quietly enchanting town of Thistleford, a place nestled right on the very edge of fairy.
Oh, liminal space.
Exactly. And here we meet two sisters who are bound by a connection so profound, so deeply intertwined, that our source notes they cannot be separated, even in death.
Wow. Heavy.
Yeah. The core relationship between these sisters is described as both heartbreaking in its sorrow and beautiful in its enduring strength. It immediately establishes these deep emotional stakes for you, the reader. Their bond transcends the physical realm, creating this kind of magical tether that defies conventional understanding.
So it sounds like it masterfully blurs the lines between everyday reality and the fantastical. How does that actually manifest in the story?
Well, this ties directly into the broader themes of the book. The author masterfully blends the mundane with the magical, allowing fairy elements to subtly yet pervasively seep into everyday life in Thistleford.
Seep in. I like that description.
Yeah, it's not about grand, overt magical displays or, epic battles. It's about the quiet, almost ethereal influence of the fantastical on the ordinary.
Could you give an example?
Like, maybe certain flowers might glow faintly at twilight, or the mist over the river might whisper ancient secrets, or familiar objects might shift subtly, imbued with a hint of fey energy, that kind of thing.
That's subtle magic.
Very subtle. And this raises a crucial point the book seems to explore. How does the mundane become magical? And how does the fantastical become an inseparable part of reality?
Deep questions.
Very. The book explores profound themes of grief, the enduring nature of love, and the concept of bonds that transcend even death. It makes it an incredibly moving and introspective read, according to the source.
And the setting, Thistleford.
The small-town setting feels both cozy and deeply mysterious, creating this enchanting, atmospheric backdrop where magic feels not only possible, but utterly inevitable, intertwined with the landscape itself.
Okay, and the spicy sweet rating for this one?
It perfectly captures its essence, like morning mist over a still lake, ethereal, beautiful, and absolutely haunting.
Wow. That sounds beautiful.
It does. This book is truly for literary fantasy lovers. People who appreciate exquisite prose, profound emotional depth, and stories that gently but powerfully blur that line between the magical and the mundane. It invites contemplation long after the final page. #3. Swordcatcher #2 by Cassandra Clare.
Okay, coming in at number 3, we have the unnamed sequel to Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare, which, excitingly, our sources confirm is set for a March 2025 release.
Yeah.
Not too long to wait.
Getting closer, yeah.
And our source emphasized that this book truly proves Cassandra Clare's transition to adult fantasy was absolutely the right move, which is a significant statement, right, for an author with such a dedicated, huge YA following.
It's a big statement, and one point that really stands out about the sequel, as highlighted by our source, is how it truly distinguishes itself in the adult fantasy space. The political intrigue in this book is described as absolutely incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah, signaling a significant step up in complexity, ruthlessness, maybe moral ambiguity compared to her previous works.
So, more complex than Shadowhunters.
It seems so. Cassandra Clare has built this world that feels both familiar, it draws on her established strengths, intricate lore, secret societies, compelling character dynamics.
Right, things her fans love.
Exactly. Yet it feels completely fresh and challenging for an adult audience. This delicate balance ensures that longtime fans will find elements to love, while new readers will be drawn in by the sophisticated narratives.
And the characters, Kel and Lynn.
The relationships between the characters, particularly that central duo of Kel and Lynn, have apparently developed in incredibly satisfying, mature ways, reflecting the complexities, the often harsh realities of adult life, the difficult choices that come with power.
So the romance is different too.
The romance elements are explicitly noted by the source as more mature and complex. That's a key differentiator from her YA novels, delving into deeper emotional wounds, maybe betrayals, the consequences of love amidst intense political machinations.
Okay. And the magic.
Furthermore, the magic system continues to be fascinating, evolving beyond what readers might expect from her earlier series, introducing new magical threats, intricate applications of power. It's expanding.
So it's not just about the external threats, the court intrigue, but the characters' internal struggles too. Sounds like a strong focus on personal growth amidst all the politics.
Exactly right. And this challenges us, maybe, to think about how characters navigate that high-stakes external conflict while simultaneously undergoing profound personal growth, self-discovery.
That balance.
It's all about the balance. What's most compelling about this series, as detailed by the source, is how it perfectly balances the personal and political stakes.
How so?
The characters are dealing with intense court intrigue, treacherous alliances, formidable magical threats that could destabilize their entire world. But concurrently, they are figuring out who they are and what they're willing to fight for on a deeply personal level.
Right.
They're grappling with their identities, their loyalties, the sacrifices they're willing to make for love or for their kingdom. This dual focus on sprawling external conflict and intimate internal journey allows for stunning character development. It makes their struggles, their triumphs, their heartbreaks deeply resonant for the reader.
Sounds great.
It's a compelling blend of high political fantasy and intimate character study. It really demonstrates Clare's mastery of a more mature narrative scope. #2, Catabasis by RF Kuang.
All right, at number 2, this is a big one, Catabasis by RF Kuang. And our source's immediate reaction was, and I quote, "This book absolutely destroyed me in the most beautiful way."
Wow, that's intense praise.
Isn't it? And as a follow-up to literary powerhouses like Babel and the Poppy War series,
Yeah.
oh, well, that immediately tells me this isn't for the faint of heart. This is going to be a profound experience.
Absolutely. And one point that truly stands out reading the analysis is RF Kuang's signature ability. She just does this so well to write fantasy that feels both epic and deeply personal.
That's her trademark, isn't it?
It really is. Catabasis continues that tradition, making it abundantly clear why it unraveled our source so completely. The world building is described as intricate and immersive. It truly draws you into its depth, rich history, complex cultures, often brutal political landscapes. It's a world that feels vast, lived in, yet incredibly specific.
But it's the characters that really hit hard.
That's what the source emphasizes. Stepping back to consider the overall landscape, what truly devastates and resonates is the emotional core of the story. The characters are depicted as so real and flawed and human, even in the most fantastical circumstances, and that's precisely where the profound impact lies. You feel their triumphs, their desperate struggles, their devastating losses as if they were your own. It creates this powerful, empathetic link between you and the character. Kuang doesn't shy away from depicting the ugliness of humanity right alongside its fleeting moments of beauty.
So it sounds like it doesn't shy away from difficult questions or uncomfortable truths either.
It absolutely doesn't. And this brings up that crucial point again about the role of challenging narratives in contemporary fantasy.
Right.
The nuanced themes of power, the painful realities of sacrifice, the arduous path to redemption. They run throughout this book. And RF Kuang handles them with incredible complexity, moral ambiguity.
No easy answers.
None at all. This isn't fantasy that offers easy answers or simple, comforting resolutions. It's fantasy that dares to ask hard, uncomfortable questions and trusts you, the reader, to grapple with them.
Like what kind of questions?
Yeah. Like, for example, it might explore whether a necessary evil truly remains evil, or if genuine redemption is even possible after monstrous acts. The narrative forces you to confront the cost of ambition, the nature of empire, the personal toll of grand conflicts.
Heady stuff.
Very. It pushes you intellectually and emotionally. It leaves a lasting impression that transcends typical escapism. Catabasis is described as a book that demands your full attention, your deepest emotional investment, and rewards it with profound insights into the human condition. It sounds like a truly unforgettable experience. #1, Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Our #1 fantasy book of 2025.
Oh.
According to our source, it's Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. And the reaction, it absolutely shattered me and then put me back together in the most perfect way.
Wow. Shattered and put back together. That's quite the endorsement.
Isn't it? And given the cultural phenomenon status of the previous books in the Empyrean series, Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, the hype for this one was truly immense, off the charts.
Unbelievable hype. And one point that truly stands out from the source is exactly that, the immense pressure this book was under.
Right. How do you follow those first two?
Exactly. The expectation for Onyx Storm was astronomical. Yet somehow, Rebecca Yarros managed to exceed every impossible expectation that fans, critics, everyone had placed upon it.
That's incredible.
And the commercial success alone is just unprecedented. Our source highlights a remarkable sales figure: 2.7 million copies sold in the first week.
2.7 million.
In a week. In the first week. It's truly astounding, surpassing any other adult novel in the previous 20 years, according to the Bookscan data, which tracks print sales.
That's staggering.
It's not just a hit, it's a historical event in publishing. It demonstrates the power of a deeply engaged readership and the author's incredible ability to deliver what they crave.
Wow, okay. But beyond the staggering sales, what made it the #1 book for our source? Like specifically in terms of its content, its impact?
Right, good question. Stepping back to consider the overall landscape, if we connect this to the deeper reasons for its top spot, it seems to be how Rebecca Yarros continues to develop Violet and Xaden's relationship.
The core relationship.
The core relationship, yeah, in ways that feel both epic in their scope and intimately personal in their detail. Their dragon bonds become even more complex, introducing new facets of connection, vulnerability, adding these rich layers to the magical system and escalating the emotional stakes.
More dragon stuff.
Oh, yeah. We apparently see new types of dragon rider abilities, new challenges to their mental and emotional links, and the profound implications these bonds have for the fate of their world.
Okay. And the plot.
Concurrently, the political intrigue escalates to new heights, creating this constant sense of danger, urgency that keeps you on the absolute edge of your seat. New factions emerge, old alliances shatter, the very foundation of their world is threatened by escalating conflicts.
So it's got everything.
It seems to achieve that perfect balance of action and emotion the source mentions, weaving together thrilling battle sequences, intricate political machinations, and deeply felt romantic and familial relationships.
And that leads to the emotional impact. Shattering.
Exactly. This blend leads to powerful, almost overwhelming emotional stakes for readers. As our source admits, it had them sobbing actual tears by the end.
Wow, okay.
This masterful blend, high-octane fantasy with deeply felt character arcs and relationships, that's what truly makes Onyx Storm so special, and for our source, the undisputed #1 fantasy book of 2025.
And the spicy sweet rating for the #1.
It summarizes it perfectly, like Dragonfire itself, intense, overwhelming, and absolutely impossible to forget.
Dragonfire. Okay, that says it all.
It really does. It's described as a book that demands you clear your schedule, completely immerses you, and leaves you utterly changed.
And there you have it, our deep dive into the top 10 fantasy books of 2025, according to the sources you provided us.
Wow. Looking back at this extraordinary list, what strikes me most is the incredible breadth, the depth of these stories, and how profoundly resonant they truly are. It's been an incredible journey through these vibrant new worlds today.
Indeed. And placed within the wider context of fantasy, these books, they vividly illustrate the evolving landscape of the genre, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantasy is growing in the most beautiful, exciting ways, offering more character depth, more emotional complexity, more diversity in voices and stories than maybe ever before.
It feels that way.
Authors are clearly unafraid to tackle those difficult themes while still giving us the magic and wonder we crave. It's a real testament to the genre's maturity, its versatility, and its increasing capacity to hold a mirror up to our own world.
And it speaks volumes about us as readers, too, doesn't it? Our tastes are evolving right alongside the genre. We're clearly ready for, well, for more. Without a doubt. These books prove that fantasy readers are ready for anything the genre can throw at them. We still seek the comfort, of familiar tropes, the pure escapism that fantasy traditionally offers.
So that was part of the appeal.
But we also crave innovation. Stories that push boundaries, narratives that challenge our perceptions. We want stories that help us understand our own world better by using those fantastical lenses to explore complex human issues. We want to fall in love with characters and worlds, yes, but we also want to be challenged and changed by what we read. To feel that raw emotion, grapple with profound questions.
It's not just about escape anymore.
Not entirely. So as we look at how fantasy continues to evolve, blending that pure escapism with profound personal and social commentary, maybe we can ask ourselves this.
Okay.
What does it mean that the stories that shatter us, like our source described for numbers 1 and 2, that they're often the very ones that put us back together, offering not just magic and adventure, but maybe a deeper understanding of ourselves and the complex world we inhabit?
That's a truly thought-provoking question to leave you all with as you consider your next incredible read. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the extraordinary fantasy landscape of 2025.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Until next time, keep exploring those incredible worlds.